On January 3rd, 1890, readers across the country opened their newspapers and saw a word that stopped them cold. Extra. Not politics. Not war. Murder. And it wasn't a saloon fight. It wasn't a street robbery. It was the kind of death that made people uneasy because it happened in a private home, behind a bedroom door. In Trenton, New Jersey, a woman, Mrs. Myra, sometimes printed as Maria Kniffin, was found dead in her bed. The newspapers would soon repeat the same chilling phrase: chloroformed to death. A mystery. No clue to the persons who chloroformed Mrs. Kniffin. To understand why this story spread so fast, imagine the time. No fingerprints, no labs, no modern autopsies, just lantern light, winter air, neighbors whispering, police relying on statements, scene observations, and instinct. According to the reporting, Dr. Arthur S. Kniffin, Mrs. Kniffin's husband, a dentist, had been away from the home. In the house that night were Mrs. Kniffin, her child, and a young relative, Miss Emma Purcell, and almost immediately a story rose to the surface. Intruders. Burglars. A night attack inside the home. Later articles add something important. This was not the first time an intruder story had touched that household. Months earlier, while Dr. Kniffin was also away, Mrs. Kniffin reportedly told police that burglars entered at night. Miss Purcell claimed one man held a knife over her, keeping her silent until morning. The child, according to those reports, slept through it. Police investigated, found no trace of burglars, and the matter was dropped. Now, on the morning Mrs. Kniffin was found dead, newspapers describe a scene that seemed to push the case from strange to terrifying. Rooms were described as disturbed, drawers disordered, something not right. Dr. Shannon, Dr. Kniffin's business partner, arrived at the house to attend patients. Think of that, people expecting ordinary appointments. And instead, this story begins. Accounts describe those inside the home moving upstairs, calling out, getting no answer. And then, Miss Emma Purcell was found on the floor, prostrate, unconscious. Some reports describe her as appearing lifeless at first glance. But what matters, what the story makes clear, is that she was alive. She was moved to another room, placed on a bed, and later revived enough to speak and be questioned. Then attention turned to Mrs. Kniffin, in her bedroom, on her bed, with part of the bedding drawn over her face. When it was moved aside, newspapers reported the discovery plainly. She was dead. Police were notified. Crowds gathered. The papers described the city absorbing the shock. Because the question was immediate. How could someone enter, kill, and leave without an obvious struggle, without neighbors hearing screams, without a clear trail? Miss Purcell's account, printed and reprinted, became central. In her telling, she and Mrs. Kniffin had gone to bed the night before. She said she was awakened when Mrs. Kniffin screamed that someone was forcing the door. Miss Purcell said she heard pushing, jumped up, ran to the window, and screamed. Then, she claimed, She was seized, thrown, and a wet cloth was held over her face. After that, she said she remembered nothing. That detail, wet cloth, was one reason papers repeatedly returned to chloroform. But the same reports also emphasized that police did not accept the burglary theory as solid. Officers were said to doubt it early, and Miss Purcell was placed under surveillance. The newspapers also highlight contradictions that made the public lean forward. A child, described in later coverage as Little Lenny, was reported to have slept through the night, undisturbed, and later the child's account was described as contradicting parts of the burglary narrative. That detail in print didn't solve anything, but it intensified doubt. The story escalated into official proceedings. A coroner's inquest was held in Trenton. Witnesses were called. Names appear in the reports: Dr. Shannon, Gus Reed, others. And the testimony focused on what people saw, how the rooms looked, where people were found, what seemed disturbed, and what did not. As the case unfolded in headlines, the law tightened around the two names at the center: Dr. Kniffin and Miss Emma Purcell. The papers report that a formal complaint was read, charging both in connection with the death. Both entered pleas of not guilty. They were committed, then later admitted to bail. And at least one report notes Miss Purcell refusing to answer a question at a point in the proceedings, on advice of counsel, before being taken before the grand jury. Then came the moment that made the case explode beyond Trenton. Dr. Kniffin attempted suicide. Newspapers describe it in harsh detail. He was found injured after cutting himself and after taking poison. A relative, named as his brother-in-law in the reporting, discovered him. Doctors were called. He survived. The papers say plainly that this attempt increased public horror, because people read meaning into it. And yet, meaning is not proof. And the reporting itself shows that certainty still did not exist. There were headlines, editorials, illustrations, public fascination. But the legal system moved toward a different kind of ending. In February of 1890, after review of the evidence, the grand jury found no bill. No indictment against Dr. Kniffin. No indictment against Miss Purcell. And the reports quote officials stating that after deliberation, there was no evidence on which to hold them. The prosecutor agreed to discharge the sureties on Dr. Kniffin's bond, but hesitated on Miss Purcell's, offering no detailed reason, only the suggestion that something might turn up. And then, orders were signed. Bondsmen released. The prosecution ended without a trial, without a verdict, without a publicly proven answer. One of the starkest lines printed in the coverage says it best. Mrs. Kniffin was murdered, and there was no door at which to lay the crime. And that's where these articles leave the story. A death in a bedroom, a household divided by suspicion, a burglary story doubted, an investigation limited by the tools of its time, and a legal ending that shut the courthouse door, while the mystery stayed open in the public mind. If you want more stories exactly like this, told only as the newspapers told them, without pretending we have answers, the papers didn't, then you're in the right place. Because in the 1890s, sometimes the headline came first. And the truth, if it ever came at all, came much later.